Hello there. Hold on, something's not quite right. Hey, it's showtime. I've got all the plugs linked up with smart plugs now, voice control through the Google thing. I beeped out the Google word there just in case it activated something in your house. Maybe all your lights would come on as well. Anyway, hello, how you doing? What's this now? November the 6th is when I'm recording this. It's just after 2 in the afternoon. You saw the problem with the eye there, where this eye's trying to look over there. I've also got varifocal glasses, just due to my age, of course, so I can read this and I can read that. But of course, if you want to then read close up, you have to do this with your chin. So I never noticed this before when I was younger, and you see these people reading things like this, and you think, what's going on? Why do they read that? And then you don't realise that it's because the bottom half of your glasses is for reading and the top half's for. So then you do this a lot. What's that over there? Oh, I don't know. I'll read this, and you get this weird kind of middle-aged thing going on. Anyway, sorry, moving off topic already before we started. Right, so it's an update video, usual kind of thing. Gonna have a bit of a chat. I'll go on far too long. Afterwards, I might cut in some interesting pictures and things if I feel it's a bit flat. This whole thing that I do kind of started off years ago when I was in offices and things, and they did like presentation courses and stuff. Because presentations seem to be like a big thing in the 90s. I don't know if people still do them, but anyway, I don't know what I was presenting, but went on various courses. And I found that I could sort of always hoodwink everyone and get like top marks and passes and whatever it was by just throwing in a load of media in it. You know, like stick pictures in and stick a lot of slides up, interesting things. And whatever you said, no one listened to. They were all looking at the pictures, which is kind of how this whole YouTube channel thing has gone. That bombard it with pictures and just talk rubbish over the top, and no one will even notice. And it seems to work as a whole. Occasionally somebody notices what I'm saying and notices it's rubbish, but usually people just look at the nice pretty pictures. So that's the system I've got. Just show a lot of stuff and then talk over it, which of course is the opposite to one of these videos, which is what I was getting to. So this is a lot of talking and not so many pictures. So if I feel it's flagging, I'll try and sort of re-edit it a little bit. But this will take me quite a while to get through. But I want to kind of keep it moving along as usual. So as I say, if it's starting to get a bit dry, I'll chop bits out. Nothing amazing that's happened in here. Let's just go over the previous videos a bit, see how October was. Well, October was a disaster area. It was like a rude awakening after September. I had a good month in August due to that Sears cassette. That just boosted everything around it. That then even had a tail on into September, and September seemed to be that the videos I put out, which I'd thought, well, this will do all right. Loads of people ended up watching them, so September did really well. So I thought, I'm on this trajectory now, but I'll be retired by the end of the year. And then October came round, it was like, nah, think again, mate. Views in October were down, subscribers down 63%. Now that doesn't mean I've lost 63% of the subscribers. It means the amount of subscribers in that month is 63% less new subscribers than the previous month. Unique viewers down 39%. There was another figure I got, views down 48%. So October was just like a disaster. But the trouble was September was too good. It kind of made October look really bad in comparison. When I look at October on its own in isolation, it's sort of average really. But yeah, the idea of like being on an upward trajectory, I can't say that very well. Let's have a coffee. But yeah, the idea of that, no, not anymore. Maybe thing is, after October, November's got to pick up. He says, famous last words. Right, so let's move on with these videos. So I'll be turning back to you a little bit. You'll see me newly developing bald patch. I mean, the front went years ago when I was in my 20s, but the back's trying to catch it up in the middle now. It's doing a good job of it as well. So it's getting. I'm not even 50 yet, you know, and I look like this. I don't know, it might be a shock to somebody. I thought he was 65. I thought I was 65 every time I look in the mirror, but no, something's going on. I'm in some kind of different time dimension to everyone else where I'm it's like the opposite of Benjamin Button syndrome, which is because he's been normal, but accelerated aging. I remember a Star Trek episode. This is a story. When I was a kid, I remember a Star Trek episode, the original series. had been on, and it was on when I was very young, all through the 70s. And there was, I got really into it, sort of late 70s and stuff. I used to, early 80s and things. And I always remember this episode where all the crew got really young, and they were babies. And it was just the oldest one that was left, I think was like Scotty or something, who was just old enough to press a button and bring them all back to the right age again, or something along those lines. That's what I remember, but it's something I saw when I was like 5, you know. I kept waiting for this episode to come around when they showed the series. It never did, and then I ended up buying the whole series on videotape and watched my way all the way through it, waiting at some point this episode would come around. It never did. I thought, what the heck? Turns out it was in the cartoon series. You know, they did the cartoon of the original series. That I don't think the story was quite what I remembered, but it was in the cartoon series. And it just shows you that when your age is, when you're sort of like single digits, 5 or 6 or something, you don't really differentiate between cartoons and real life things, because I remembered this episode and just thought it was in a normal TV show. I didn't even know there was a Star Trek cartoon series till I was in my teens, and yet I'd been watching one when I was like 5 or something. But anyway, the Sansui Auto Reverse Turntable, you remember that was running slow. That was a video that I'd done all the shooting of it a lot earlier in the year, and then I was kind of, I'll explain more about why October was a little bit weird in a minute, but I needed to free up some hard drive space, and I hadn't got anything new that I could shoot because I was waiting on a few things being delivered. I thought, oh, I'll put that video together. So I put it together, and the reason that turntable didn't work out was because it was running slow. I think I would have just put up with the fact it was a bit cheap and nasty on the inside if it had worked, but I didn't realise. I was testing it up here, putting different records on. Of course, not records I'm really familiar with, just things I could test and play without them hitting a content match. So not like my favourite tracks or anything. I don't even know if I've got any favourite tracks. Someone list, say, what's your top 10 records? I couldn't think of any. We hear them and you go, oh, I like that one, but you forget it later. Anyway, so I got it all set up. I put it into the cabinet downstairs. I moved things around. I sort of lifted a shelf up, put things underneath it because it kind of didn't quite fit. Had it hanging out the back, all the rest of it. I thought, oh yeah, this is good. And then I thought, right, I'll sit down and listen to something. And it just so happened that I'd got a Jay-Z album. What the one with Hard Knock Life on it? Because I'd never... Jay-Z came around after I dropped out of listening to hip-hop. I know it sounds silly because he's like old school now, but I kind of lost interest in I'd say the mid-90s, early mid-90s. He was around then, but those kind of things were a little bit later. So I didn't really get into it. Anyway, so I saw this solid album and I thought, well, might as well pick that up and have a proper listen to it. And I put it in, and of course, Hard Knock Life is a track that I'm familiar with, has been played on the radio back then. It was played quite a lot, wasn't it? And Jay-Z's voice was lower. And I thought, what's going on here? Now, so that was the first time I spotted it, the fact that Jay-Z had a deeper voice than he normally does. Of course, I never really realised it, but Jay-Z's got quite a kind of medium to high pitch voice, you know, when he talks, compared to, like, you know, it's not exactly Barry White, put it that way. So this is I thought, oh, this sounds weird. And so what I did, I played the track and timed it on my stopwatch, and then played it digitally through like Apple Music or whatever. And by the end of the track, it was like 15 seconds longer or something, just one track. And that's how I spotted that the thing was running slow. So yeah, that was that video. Did all right, that one, because it was still hanging over a little bit from the kind of September bump. The Activo CT10, the little digital audio player thing. Now, I thought this might be an area that I could go into a little bit, you know, with these DAP, these digital audio players, because there's so many of them around and there's some interesting ones. And just let me see if I can find this. Now, just before that one arrived, I got this one. If I scratch that screen... Oh, I broke the screen. It was rubbish anyway. No, it really was. Oh dear. Well, something's touched that screen and broke it. And it's not a lot of weight over there. But anyway, this... Luckily, I've shot all the video for this. At least I think I have. This looks really cool. This looks like a prop out of like Blake 7 or something. So that's why I got that one. Absolutely terrible piece of rubbish. So I'm not... bothered that it's cracked. I'll just put it in the recycling later on. But as a prop, you know, a bit like in the Star Wars Episode 4, when the communicators were made out of big lady shavers, you know, when they repurpose real things, it looks a bit like that. But anyway, So I thought this DAP idea might be something I could do more of in the future. Let me know if you're interested in seeing some more of those. Talking of which, the Sony Walkman one, it should be arriving on the 20th. I say should be. There was a Sony turntable I ordered last year, and I thought this will be a good thing to review. And they delayed it like 4 times, and in the end I ended up getting something else and cancelling the order because it was just taking too long. So it might not be out on the 20th. But yeah, the Sony Walkman digital audio player is supposed to be out on the 20th. So that'll be another one I'll do. We'll see how that fares. Laser FX. Now that's when things started to drop off. It went brr, like that on Laser FX. Now, I thought the Laser FX video, a silly little video, novelty item, the kind of thing that could attract more attention as to people go, oh yeah, I remember that, or have you seen this rubbish, or whatever it is. The people that watched it seemed to like it. I don't know if I've got stats on here. Well, 12,000 thumbs up, 85 down. So that was, I got 197,000 views. So you think, oh, that's all right, but the previous thing got like 280. You know, so there's obviously like a 50% drop off. Probably not the right maths there, but anyway. So yeah, that was the beginning of the end. And then we went on to the magazines on tape. You know, the Choice magazine listing, the sort of audio magazines for the blind. Now that's got 2 sides to it. First, on a purely like how many people watched it basis, failure. 157,000. Now again, people say, oh, I'd die for 157, that'd be brilliant. Yeah, it's all right, but I've spent like a week on it, and that is the video for that week, and one the previous week got 270 odd. So, you know, it's like a big drop down, and there'd be nothing out for a week after that. So, you know, if that had got 270 odd, it's like a payday. It's like missing a week's wage almost, but, you know, work around all that. But yeah, you'd rather it had 400,000 views like the one about the cassette that before. I thought, well, 12-hour tape, that could be interesting. The thing with that is, though, again, the people who watched it really liked it. 9.2 thousand thumbs up, 68 down. So that's a really good ratio, isn't it? So the people who watched it liked it, and it got a lot of good goodwill, that one. I wasn't coming out to be all like righteous and stuff and going on about, oh, let's do something all about disabled people because that'll make me look really good and that. No, it was something that I was interested in, as you know, tapes and things. And I mentioned in that video about the fact I'd kind of lost a lot of sight in my right eye and it wasn't going to come back. And I hadn't mentioned that before on Patreon and stuff because I'm not in the business of looking out for sympathy. I thought I had to mention it in that video because if I come into this as a fully sighted person starting to review tech for the blind, I thought that might come off as being a bit insensitive. And it's like, well, what's it got to do with him anyway? Why is he even interested in this stuff? It's not even his business. Now, I know that from my experience of dealing with people who are blind and partially sighted, they're not like that at all. There's a lovely chap called Andre. I won't give his surname out because I'll tell you more in a bit about someone's surname I gave out who kind of went a bit crazy about it. So Andre, could be any Andre, could be Andre the Giant resurrected. Nice chap. He's blind. And again, he's a chap who says, if someone says to you, are you supposed to say it's partially sighted or sight impaired? No, I'm blind, he says. And completely, not like partially or anything. But he's a subscriber to the channel, so I've had a few emails back and forth with Andre. He's a nice chap, and I did a little bit of a voiceover for some podcast he's on and he's done a couple of little things for me. And he's pointed stuff out in the videos to me in the past. He said, oh, it's good that you mentioned that because I could get a feel as to what it was you were talking about and stuff like that. So I deliberately try and make an effort to include things. I mean, I don't remember this all the time. There's a lot of stuff I don't remember. I always have ideas that, oh, I'll do this and then forget. But I try and describe what's on the screen if at all possible, and it doesn't come across as being, well, why is he saying that? You know, because there is a surprising number of blind subscribers, and I say surprising to me because you think, well, it's a visual medium, but you know, it isn't, is it? It's little voice, there's talking going on all the way through it. So, you know, a bit of both, really. But talking of that video, anyway, not as many people watched it as I would have liked, but, you know, that's the nature of the game, isn't it? But there were some really bad comments under it. People, I think, intending to be light-hearted and a lot of supportive things. I'm going to say a lot of supportive comments and things about this, but a lot of people who just didn't know how to react to somebody saying that they had lost this sight in one eye, or most of it. And you could just, so awkward, some of these things. I mean, if I was a person that was easily offended, I'd be really offended, but I'm not. I just thought that it's like, well, maybe you need to kind of get a grip there. And it made me feel even more as to what it would be like being somebody of any kind of disability or missing your legs or whatever, how awkward people would be around you. And it's something that you kind of experience when you just see normal people trying to sort of... I'll give you some examples. I got some comments in here. Right, okay, let me give you a couple of these now. Just see if these sort of make you feel a bit cringy. It's like watching The Office or something. Printing House for the Blind is a little ironic, isn't it? Well, I mean, they do Braille and stuff, and it's just a name, isn't it? It's like I was in Boston once, and they had the Children's Floating Hospital. And it was a building next to the hotel. It definitely wasn't floating, because at one point it would have been in the past, no doubt, and then it just kept the name. So, like American Printing House. What's the point of putting text on the player if the blind can't read it? It should have Braille impregnated in the plastic next to the controls. You see, these are people who aren't blind, who don't know anything about blind people, but want to kind of comment on what blind people should and shouldn't be able to do. Well, of course, it's not like these things just arrive in the post, a cassette player, and say, like, just a box, and the person will be like, well, I don't know what this is, I'm trying to feel my way around it. So they've gone to a place, somebody says, right, here's your new cassette player, here's how it works, there's the buttons, do you get the idea, do you feel it right, do you know how to play the tape, and then you put the tape in, can you hear the instructions, yeah, right, okay, are you sure you're all right with that? Yeah, I'm pretty fine with that. Okay, good, if you have any problems, let me know, give us a call, but otherwise I think you'll be all right. Well, yeah, thanks for that. It's expecting everything to be like printed in Braille on it. I mean, anyway, and then there's a lot of... Right, so I mentioned about the fact that I'd lost the sight in the... I mean, it's most of it. If I do that, I can't see the camera. I'm seeing sort of a grey blob. But if I look at the camera, I can see sort of what's around here, but it's just the middle's like a grey blob. That one's fine. And the reason for that is because it's... First off, yes, I'm diabetic. It's nothing to do with that. It's an issue to do with the macula. Now, again, diabetes people susceptible to diabetic retinopathy, and then people go about macular degeneration, which I think is another thing. But no, what's happened is, I've got all this snot in my head that just constantly runs, and therefore that's why I sound a bit nasal, because it's blocked up all my sinus passages. I think we'll have to go back a step here. Right, so for some reason, my head just produces non-stop mucus. I know it's not a nice thing to say, is it? But I've just got to go back. Which then creates a very kind of damp nasal passages, very prone to infection and stuff. But also, if you imagine a kind of damp, boggy area, it's going to all swell up and stuff. And that's pretty much what's happened. And then it grows polyps and all that kind of stuff, which is why I can't smell or taste anything, because it's blocked all the area just before the smell receptors, which are also 80% of the taste. Nothing gets through to there. So I can sort of breathe. Before I do every video, by the way, I always spray up some nasal spray stuff to clear it, which gives me a couple of hours. So I did that before. If I hadn't done that, I'm like that now. So every time I do it, I'm aware of this. But this problem has then resulted in people trying to fix cut out the bits. And I've had either 3 or 4 operations where they've gone in, have knocked me out, they've cut out all this stuff, and then I've had plasters on and all that. The trouble is with all this, that it's all based around steroids. It's very basic. There's not much they can do. They can cut the stuff out and they can give you steroids. Steroids tend to sort of reverse it a little bit, but then when you stop taking them, it all comes back again. So what they do is they do the steroids, which then brings everything out, and then they have the operation because it enables them to have a bit more space to get into there, and then they give you some steroids afterwards, and then the cut out area eventually heals, and you're kind of all right. Well, for about a year or more, which is what happened to me. Maybe 2 years max, a year and a half, and then I all went back to square one again 3 times. These steroids are what's believed to have caused this eye problem, because by having these steroids, there was some cyst that appeared on the macula right at the back, which was a lump inside the eye, which pushed the macula out, and under this lump was just some sort of liquid or something, which then over time, a long time, like 6-8 months, eventually went back again, but left a scar, which is what's the problem. And then it's gone up again. It happened about 3 times this during the course of trying to have all these operations and stuff. So, and of course, my eyes are completely out of whack when it does that, because it's like altering your focal length. Like this one's in telephoto and this one's in wide angle, and you're like this, terrible headaches and stuff. So what's happened is that's happened too many times, and the back of the eye now, the macula, is like super thin compared to what it should be. And the reason I know all this is because I've been to doctors, I've been to hospitals, I've been to places where they've taken pictures, and they take pictures and they've got 3D scans now, all sorts of clever stuff, and they can show you, yeah, this is the back of your eye, this is what it should look like, and this is what yours looks like, and this is the thickness at the back, which is like this, and it should be this thick. Now the bit at the back is the bit that gets the light into it, the light through the front of the eye, focuses on the back like a projection screen type thing, and gets absorbed in these little thingamajigs. Well, the thingamajigs that it should be getting absorbed into and bringing back the light just aren't there. So it's super thin there, it's just like a kind of light, whereas this one's fine. Well, that's not going to grow back. They can't fix it. I mean, it's back of your eye. Nobody's going to, unless I'm Steve Austin, I'm not going to get a new eye or anything. So that's it. That eye's now buggered. It's not going to go any better. So that was what I was trying, but I didn't want to go into, I mean, look how long it took me to tell you in this video. So I just say, yeah, I've lost most of the sight of my right eye, right? That's all you need to know. That's just the info. I mean, you need to know that, but that was it. But anyway, I hope you're aware of the fact that LED lights ruin your remaining vision even more. Okay, I'm sure that's very scientific. Consider going carnivore or at least low carb for your eyesight. Again, people, no idea what's wrong with me, but he's got a solution. You know what's wrong with me now, so you'll say, oh, try having a steak, that'll fix it. It's just like, say I had got a leg cut off for whatever, I fell off a motorbike and someone cut my leg off, and then somebody coming up to you go, well, have you tried salad? You know, it might bring it back, mightn't it? You know, like really stupid. And then there's like, this is on the insensitive side, why no blind puppet video? Like, I mean, come on. I mean, wouldn't that be like really bad for me to do a video and sort of say, oh, I'm a blind puppet? That would be just, I mean, for me, it's a bit close to home. But I mean, for other people, that's just not right, is it? How the F you drive, I'm not going to use the term, right? I'm wishing for a Halloween video with an eye patch. I don't know if you have your medical stuff figured out or not, but if not, you might want to look into neurobehet's disease. It's ultra rare, but I have it. It goes on and on and on. Now, I don't know. There's a few people like this. I can see that intentions are good, but what is it that makes people think that me going blind in one eye, I would never have spoke to a doctor, an optician, an optometrist, or any of those people. I would never have mentioned, I've just gone blind, I'll just leave it. It's probably not important. You know, you're going to see someone like, I mentioned in the video, I've spent so long in doctors' surgeries reading posters about going blind, and then somebody says, why have they got posters in the surgeries? You know, as though there's not such a thing as partially sighted, as though it's like one day you can see, the next day you can't. It's like, it's not like that, is it? But yeah, just odd behaviour. I know I'm going on too long about this, but it's just, this was the thing in October that kind of knocked me a little bit for six, because I was trying to be helpful and everything was just coming back the other way. Maybe you had a stroke. Oh yeah, maybe it was, yeah. Didn't really think about that. Yeah, I can't feel the left side of my face. Yeah, maybe I should see someone about, nah, probably not. Maybe just have a steak, that'll sort it out, won't it? Sorry to hear about your vision issues, but there is an irony in one of the top audio-visual YouTubers losing their sight. Well, at least I'm being ironic. Glad everyone's seeing the positive side. Sorry to hear you're going blind. I mean, I never said I was going blind. I lost most of the eyesight in one eye. That's not going blind. It's like, well, so it kind of makes me think, oh, is the other one going now as well? Does this guy know something I don't? Maybe he's had a word with me optometrist, the one that I haven't seen because I just thought it'd be all right. Do you suffer from macular degeneration? I'm sure you're aware of stem cell research going on. Right, now, here's the thing. Stem cell research. Bollocks to stem cell research is what I say, because it's just one of those things that they bring up as this will be the solution to everything. Oh, my kid hasn't got a hand. Oh, stem cell research. Oh, you know, I've got 4 legs. How about stem cell research? Everything's stem cell. Yeah, research, mate. Research, that's the important word. None of this stuff's happening. Yeah, it might happen. I'm getting on for 50. By the time somebody's figured out how to grow the back of an eye back with stem cell research, I'll be long dead. And that's the thing with a lot of these things. All this promise of the future, it's always like kicking the can down the road. A lot of this scientific stuff, it's great if they get it sorted, but don't tell me about research. Not interested about research. It's for like all these people that have like cancer and stuff, and they go, oh, there's a new cure coming around next year. Yeah, but I've got 6 months to live. Yeah, but new cure next year. You know, it's like, you don't want to know. Just tell me when it's finished is the main thing. Do the Apple approach, or the one they used to do, where they bring something out when it was finished. They won't tell you 2 years ahead and say we're going to have a power mat that never comes out. Do the old, oh, guess what? Here's one more thing. We've fixed everyone's eyes with this new stuff. Available tomorrow, 10p a person, you know. Yeah, stem cell research. Stupid. Oh, there's another. And then to put you back on track, Techmoan, you old F, you just suck ass. Well, that's all right. That puts me back to where I should be. So, moving on from that one, let's go past the miserable blind stuff and move on to something. Oh, I wanted to, I'll take him off the screen, I don't like him. One of the things I wanted to mention was, off the back of the APH video, the cassette player thingamajig, APH got in touch because, you know, in that video I did say go on the APH YouTube channel. I had a link to it. I said go look at their video, and a lot of people did. I picked out the weird, odd, kind of insensitive, just plain daft comments. But as I mentioned before, I think a lot of the people on YouTube who comment, their ages are in single digits. The vast majority of people who are just normal, everyday people, they don't tend to comment. I think the commenting on YouTube, I mean, once you've looked at the comments on YouTube, you kind of think, well, I don't want to be part of this. You know, it's like sitting in the kids section in McDonald's. You think, I feel a bit awkward here, you know. So, yeah, I get the feeling that the people that don't comment are the kind of normal people, and the people who do, vast majority, I mean, there'll be some normal people that comment, but I think it's just because they haven't realised that what the comments actually are, that they're kind of a bit on the puerile side as a whole, and you know, it's like turning up in a suit to like a kid's party or something where there's a clown doing balloons, and you're kind of there going, oh, so is this where the party is? You know. Anyway, so you get the idea. But what I was saying is, I told people to go and have a look at the APH video, and a lot of people did, and they got a lot of views on it. For them, you know, I mean, a lot of people went in that direction after that video, and people liked the video. They said it's kind of heartwarming and life affirming and that kind of thing, which is what I felt when I watched it. And they all give it a thumbs up. No one's giving it a thumbs down. Obviously, you'd have to be some kind of weirdo to give it a thumbs down, wouldn't you? APH got in touch with me because, of course, they were wondering where all these views are coming in all of a sudden. And they said, do you want us to send you something over? You know, we've got various different bits of tech that you might want to show. So I said, yeah. Now, you might remember from the past that I think a lot of my emails end up in people's spam folders due to the way the headers are configured. And people have offered to fix that for me, but I quite like the mystery of it. You know, when you email someone, you don't know what's going to happen. Then of course, 6 months later, they find it in the spam folder and feel awkward about it. So I'm fine with if my emails disappear. But yeah, there's the potential that might be something else coming from them. Of course, APH, American Printed House for the Blind, there in the US, and yeah, in the UK we've got RNIB for the Royal National Institute for the Blind, and then other countries have other organisations. I'm not saying that they're better than anyone else, it's just they're the people who made that cassette player that I showed. If RNIB had made it, I'd be showing theirs. Right, moving on from that and that whole debacle, but there's a lot of positive stuff in there. Glad I made the video. It didn't do well, but it just it kind of was it was good to connect with a load of normal people as well. You know, I got a lot out of it, and I'm glad that APH got something out of it as well. So, you know, it's not everything's about money and views, is it? Sometimes it's just about getting at the core of people that kind of appreciate things. Talking of this is completely off topic. I don't know why it's in here, but I'll mention it because I don't know where else I put it. I mentioned before that on Patreon, if you're on an iPhone or an iPad, since there was some kind of update to the website or to the phones, I can't tell you which one, it turned out that you couldn't enter comments under a Patreon posting. You'd type your comment and you'd press return and it wouldn't go, and you'd return. What's going on? It turns out that, I think it's on the iPad actually, but it might be both. Once you've type your thing and you press return, or you've done a full stop at the end of your sentence and you've done a space, it moves the characters into uppercase, ready for the next letter, the capital at the beginning of the sentence. So it's the keyboard's in capital mode when you press return. Now, for some reason, when the keyboard's in capital mode and you press return, it doesn't enter a comment. The comment just, nothing happens. But if you press your shift to take off the capitals and then press return, it responds to that. So it's almost like the shifted return is like a different character to the unshifted return. Unshifted return is enter. Shifted return is like nothing, so it doesn't respond to it. So yeah. I mean, I mentioned this before in the comments a few weeks ago, and chap on there forgot your name, but one of the regular contributors said, "Yeah, I've been wondering why I couldn't post anything on Patreon for ages." So yeah, if you're in that same boat and you can't, and you found you haven't been able to enter any comments recently, and you've had to kind of go into the Patreon app or on your phone, which is a horrible piece of software where you can't find anything, and you'd rather use the website. This is only on the website version. If you use the website version on an iOS device, take off the shift before you press return, your comment will get posted. If you didn't already know, or there's probably about 3 people out there that applies to who already know. Right, let's move on to interactions, things that have happened, people I've been talking to, a bit of sort of behind the scenes type of stuff. I had a request for a Commodore 64. Do I have a Commodore 64 that could feature in an HSBC advert? I'm probably revealing something I shouldn't do here, but it doesn't matter. It's only between you and me, and it's just like 3 of us here, isn't there? So yeah, now the thing is, I don't have a Commodore 64. And they wanted it by the next day. I mean, it's always the case with these production companies, isn't it? They get something, they go, you know what we need? Commodore 65. You got one? I don't know. I know a guy who does retro stuff. So someone got in touch with me because I do retro stuff. I think they must have just searched, and perhaps the SX64 video came up because that's got quite a lot of views online. I mean, there's a lot of Commodore 64 videos, and of course, a lot of them from the US. You know, 8-bit guy, of course, he's got a whole series on Commodore, which is great. But obviously not much use to someone. I think they're in Sheffield when they were filming this, and they wanted to have a Commodore 64 by tomorrow. We're prepared to drive up and stuff. I replied and said I didn't have one. Of course, I have an SX64. I didn't want them to have that. I mean, you know how these crews are, like bashing stuff around, and they wouldn't treat it with any kind of respect, and they probably didn't want an SX64 anyway. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have one. I don't know what they would have paid, a couple £100 or so. It's not worth it to break an SX64, put it that way. Now, another person that was in... So anyway, well, I'll say off that one. If you're in the UK and you're watching an HSBC advert and they're doing some kind of retro type bit, I bet it's something like, back in the 80s, if you'd invested £100 with us, you'd now have £42, you know, some kind of promotional thing like that. And they'd show like someone there'd always be a Rubik's Cube, wouldn't there? There'd be Commodore 64, Rubik's Cube, poster of Madonna on the wall or something, that kind of thing. I've got no idea, but I can imagine it already. So yeah, that Commodore 64 could have been one of mine if I'd have had one. I don't have a Commodore 64, so I didn't feel that bad about saying no. I think they would have gone for a Spectrum, to be honest, or anything. And there's one of those somewhere in the attic, but I'm not digging that out. I'd kill myself. It's under about 6 million boxes. So yeah, no, they're not having it. Now, there's a chap got in touch and said he was doing a video about the credits on Rambo 3. And he wanted to know if I would be able to capture a UK PAL Rambo. He was in the US. He wanted to know if I could capture the end credits off Rambo 3. He said he'd pay for a PAL copy of Rambo 3, and he just wanted me to capture the video from it and email it to him. I said, oh, just tell me what eBay listing you're looking at, you know, because it's a specific one. It was like by Canon, I think, or somebody else. Anyway, 80s type of company. So he... a Guild Home video. So he sent a link to this. I got this thing off eBay, I captured it, sent him the video. I never even thought, like, how many people does this guy have on his channel, what's he do? You know, it just seemed like a normal thing. Anyway, so I had a look afterwards, and he's got like 400 views or something. He's only got a little channel. Obviously I was prepared to pay for this. I said, oh, don't pay for it, doesn't matter. It was like, cost me like £15 or something to get this tape delivered, or maybe a bit less. So anyway, yeah, I helped him out with that video, but I don't think the cross-promotional aspect of it was a massive success. But I don't know if you remember. Oh, it's me, look. It's like Inception, isn't it? Is he a bit thinner? No, about the same, I think. Still overweight. I was in a couple of years ago, well, a year and a half ago maybe, I don't know. I shot some stuff to go in a documentary about DCC that was being done by Ralph at the DCC Museum, you know, Dr. DCC. It's on YouTube now, free for anyone to see, and I do appear in it a little bit. Ralph did a good job of editing this, because honestly, when I was doing my bits to camera, I came across as a bit of a clown, I think, and he managed to edit around that. It's hard for me sometimes, I have these ups and downs that are kind of emotional when I'm a little bit down like that. And unless I'm putting in 150% in, it looks like I'm depressed. So he gave me a list of questions, what was the first DCC you bought? Oh, yeah, kind of thing. What machines do you have? All that kind of stuff. And then from there, he picked out the things that worked the best. It's 52 minutes in length, and you can watch it on YouTube now for free if you want to. It's called DCC, There Is Still Music Left to Write. And so far, it's only had 1,560 views, which is a shame, because a lot of effort went into that. Not on my behalf, but the thing as a whole. I mean, he interviewed the people who made the DCCs, the guy who developed it, and all the rest of it. They're all getting on now. So, in a few years' time, no one will be able to tell this story. So it's good that they did. The group Jazz Spastics, who I've kind of had some association with in the past, in that they've sampled a couple of things I've done. Well, I got in touch with them after doing the video about the APH magazines on tapes, because that instructional tape that was narrated by Jack, I forgot his surname, but anyway, that chap, with a great voice. I mean, he's like perfect voice, well, there's so much stuff in there about press play on the tape, press stop, eject the tape, rewind, a lot of stuff like that. And I thought those are the kind of things that they like sampling. If you listen to their music, there's always these little, because I should know this, but I think they're just the kind of musician type people, the samples and all that, turntablists, that kind of stuff. I don't think they do any of the rapping. I think they always collaborate with someone else, but they do all the kind of beats and stuff. So they like samples, they like interesting things, which is why they picked up things from some of my old videos. But I thought, well, this is perfect for them. So I copied the whole thing and sent them a WAV file of it. Of course, it's only a guy giving instructional information about a cassette recorder, so it's not the kind of thing, it's not like I've copied something that's commercially viable. And they got back to me and they said, oh, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm surprised you thought about us. And they said, in fact, our next album that's coming out sometime 2020, I think, is going to be called Camera of Sound, after a video I made. Now, there's a couple of videos that I made that mention the Camera of Sound, but the wire recorder specifically mentions it, whereas when these early tape recorders came out, they were calling them cameras of sound, because they didn't really know, I mean, what else do you do with a tape recorder? Because, of course, they weren't for recording music then, it was too low quality. So I remember in one video they suggested recording like the sound of Old Faithful, the geezer, and baby's first words, and grandma laughing and stuff. So it was this idea of capturing audio snippets, which of course audio snippets is kind of what they're into. So yeah, they're going to call the next album apparently Camera of Sound, after one of my videos. So I thought it was nice as well. Thought I'd mention that. Not out, that album, but no doubt next year. Right, I've just had a look at the camera and it's been recording for longer than I thought. So what I think is the best thing for me to do is to split this. I'm going to have my coffee, I'm going to get myself going again, get my head right, and I'll carry on doing the second half of this, but I'm going to stop it here. So what to me is the first half, to you is a standalone video. I'll put this one out, and then in a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, I'll put out the other half that I shoot starting in a moment. So I've got to say, as far as this one goes, that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.